and welcome back to another episode of Size Eyes, the life of a long-term multitasker. As you might be able to hear, I am walking outside right now, just around the neighborhood. It's about 8 p.m. Just completed a workout. Might hear some birds chirping. Might hear me stop and interact with some people, safely of course. Obviously gotta test in this lavalier portable mic that's hooked up to my shirt right now. So, this is what I potentially intend on doing for the future. Don't want to give away too much yet, but I want to test this out individually. So we'll see how this one goes. Obviously just talking to myself right now. So if anyone actually hears me, they'll probably think I'm crazy. But anyway, this episode, I want to be talking about my quarterly review process, which I just completed this past weekend. So it's very topical and kind of sets the stage for the next series of episodes that I'm thinking right now that are in the works. Hopefully audio quality is as good as if I had been recording in my room itself. So let's hope that's the case by the end of this. Anyways, my quarterly review process. So this is my first actual quarterly review process that I've done. The previous one was a yearly one, kind of getting everything up to speed, which I did in December, which took a few weeks. But this was the first, quarterly one, solely quarterly. I did a little bit of prep. Also, taking it back a little bit, in mid-February, I booked a yurt out in a little bit an hour north of Charlotte, where I booked this glamping spot to see how to really get away, to isolate myself, be with my own thoughts, really be productive. So that was the intention behind really getting away and not just doing this review process at home or in the office or any other place, but really out in nature, can enjoy my own company, because that's how I really get energy. And something similar to this, where I would walk around. But anyways, so that was the booking process. Was looking for something that's potentially in Asheville, potentially in Greensboro, potentially south towards Atlanta, but found this nice place that was only an hour drive away, so far enough where I could feel like I'm getting away, but close enough where it's not a tedious or not a long drive. So what did this quarterly review process entail? I guess leading up to it, what I did was I had this note in Notion, this page as it's called, and I just throughout the quarter I kept adding stuff to it, just little notes here and there, whether to improve the whole process. Car going by, so a little ambient noise, hopefully not as bad as when I originally started podcasting of dude in the car and having that droning noise that was kind of droning out my voice. But I would fill in little points here and there for how I want to improve my process. It would improve my maybe potential ideas or projects, add things to my kind of notebook of different random thoughts, different things that I wanted to bring up here. I didn't want to spend the time going through it at that moment in time, but I knew it was valuable enough to be brought up in a different context, and that quarterly review process was that context. So, I had this backlog of things, and then I had this project itself, of the quarterly planning, which I kind of added to. And then ideally the week of, I would be planning out the actual agenda type of thing, but this one I kind of played it pretty loose. Didn't really do too much leading up to it other than what I'd already mentioned. So Thursday evening I get to the yurt. We actually took a day trip out to Raleigh for work. So I came back to the place we carpooled from and drove straight from their place straight out to Lake Norman, which is about an hour drive. I didn't listen to anything, which I normally do on drives. I listen to podcasts or something, but this one, I wanted to get into that solitary kind of mode, reflective mode. So that's what I did. Just kind of doing a little last minute prep of like, hey, I want to do these activities. So the yurt itself, very nice, very quaint, very kind of austere, unadorned. But still, it was decorative in some sense. So it was kind of dichotomous there. A very simplistic way of living. Out in nature. I had my own, yurt itself was small enough for myself and large enough to actually have a full space to move around, and bigger than some studios that I've lived in with other people before. So it's bigger than one of those, but small enough where it wasn't like a full Airbnb type experience, but also out in nature where I could enjoy some trails, enjoy there was a little community of people there. It was small, like 4 or 5 people, so some human interaction was there, but not, it was just the right amount, I feel. But so let me actually jump into the actual process. So Thursday evening I didn't really do much since I just had dinner. It was already 8, 9 by the time I got there, so I wanted to take it easy, wake up early and get started. So Friday morning, what I did was did my normal routine, or some part of the normal routine of just waking up early, journaling for a little bit, worked out, showered, did Shambhavi. This stuff you guys, if you guys have been listening, it's part of my normal routine, which I've been describing in the past few episodes. So I did that. After that, I started my weekly review, which is what I do normally ideally every Sunday, but last few weeks I've been doing them Mondays. But it's at the end of the week, kind of week in review. See what improvements I could have had, the accomplishments, disappointments, improvements, what I'm grateful for, etc. So that was, did the weekly review there. And then I went into that's done. I did a few days early, but weekly review is done. Then I progressed on to my monthly review. Hopefully this mic is, hopefully it should be fine. Then I worked my way up to the monthly review, which was of March. And so it kind of has the roll-ups, if you will, the aggregation of all the data / my insights / improvements, all these takeaways that I've been accumulating over the days and the weeks of the month. Those are surfacing now in the monthly review, and I see what my focus was for my month and see how I measured against that, if I stacked it against it, give myself a rating, effectiveness rating for the month, depending on what I wanted to accomplish project-wise, my daily habits, how much sleep I was getting, etc. And then part of the monthly ones, I also do a full retro, which, if you're not familiar with the term, it's part of the Scrum, Agile process methodology framework. And so I have a set of about 8 to 10, 11 different retros that I cycle through. So this monthly review, I ended up doing it on, or the retro style is called the story of a story, which I found online. So it's basically, in Agile, there are things called stories, where you'll have, basically a task, or it's a little bit bigger than a task, but smaller than a project. And so that's called a story. And so, aptly named, this is a story of a story. And so essentially you just choose one thing and you go deep in it. You try to find out what were all the good things about it, the bad things, how you approached it, what did you learn, etc. So what I decided to do my retro on was the website that I built. And so I did the retro on the website. So I dissected the whole process of what actually happened. I rewinded my mind. How did I approach things initially? Like, hey, I was initially just trying to update the existing website on, Wix ADI, but then, I broke some things, and then that led me to going to, asking Wix customer support, which led me to finding out that there was a Wix editor, which led me to wow, there's all this functionality that I don't have with ADI. So then I went down this template route, and then I was like, screw all these templates, let me just build this from scratch, and then continuing to learn, and then how I approach the actual website development piece of it, what content, approaching it from a mobile or user friendliness perspective, using stuff that I've learned from work, which, managing a few websites myself there. And so kind of bringing all that together, what content, how did I want people to get, what was the sole purpose, what are the main things that I wanted people to accomplish, etc. Going through the whole process and finally publishing it and then putting it out there on social media, right? So the whole process, dissected each event, but then that's just a surface level. What did I actually learn from each of those steps? And so that's what I wanted to take away. So I kind of had two columns there of all the events as well as the actual learnings that I can improve, obviously within the context of creating a website, but also in any other context for when I'm building something in the future, when I'm creating something from scratch, that whole process. So I wanted to go into that. So I spent about 45 minutes, an hour on that on that retro itself as part of the monthly review. So that's the last step of the monthly review. Then finished up lunch, or I ate lunch. No media, no nothing during lunch for all the meals actually, which I meal prepped beforehand and put in the fridge. So if anyone's wondering about the food situation, that's what I did. And then after that, also side note, not having the pressure to do anything during lunch, just think, be with your thoughts. If you've never tried that or haven't done it lately, highly recommend do that. Just sit, what is it, Indian style, I guess is what Westerners call it, just with your legs crossed. I believe that's the ideal Ayurvedic way. Obviously say your thanks, grace, whatever you say, gratefulness before you eat. No content, because whatever you watch, whatever you listen to, that energy will be transferred into you. So if you're watching something on crime, I'd probably watch something different if you're going to watch anything at all. Watch something more positive when you eat. So I've been trying to do that more, if I watch anything at all. But the 4 meals that I had, 4 or 5 meals at the yurt here, I didn't consume any content along with the consumption of food. Then next I didn't have anything. Next I moved on to finally my quarterly review. So Friday evening, that entailed, what are we at here? Oof, we're already at 15 minutes. You know what? This might be a good stopping point. And I'll continue my walk, and I'll continue on to the actual quarterly review, the review itself, since that was just the weekly and monthly looks. So I want to keep these episodes a little bit shorter, a little more bite-sized, so that people don't have to think it's a full commitment. And these are nice little walks I can go on. Maybe you guys can go on walks too and listen to this while you're walking, driving to work, working out, etc. So maybe we'll drop some wisdom in there every now and then. But anyways, thanks for listening to another episode of Size Eyes, the life of a long-term multitasker. I'll see you when I see you.